Let me ask you a question. Do children need sad stories? Now, I just completed the little children's book, Charlotte's Web. Now, shame on me for not completing this book until now. It's a beautiful story of a pig named Wilbur and his devoted friend Charlotte, the spider, who manages to save his life by writing things about him on her web. Now, the author E.B. White ends the story with Charlotte, the main character, dying. But it's not supposed to be that way. Charlotte should have lived. One of the world's most famous children's stories with a sad ending. So I have a question. Should children at an early age be confronted with sad things? Kate DiMichello, a famous children's author, says, have you ever asked an auditorium full of kids if they know and love Charlotte's Web? She said, in my experience, almost all hands go up, and if you ask them how many of them cried when they read it, most of those hands unabashedly stayed aloft. She said, my childhood best friend read Charlotte's Web over and over again as a kid. She would read the last page, turn the book over, and begin again. A few years ago, I asked her why. What was it that made you read and reread that book, I asked her. Did you think if you read it again, things would turn out differently? Better? That Charlotte wouldn't die? No, she said, it wasn't that. I kept reading it not because I wanted it to turn out differently or that I thought it would turn out differently, but because I knew for a fact that it wasn't going to turn out differently. I knew that a terrible thing was going to happen, and I also knew that it was going to be okay somehow. I thought that I couldn't bear it. But then when I read it again, it was all so beautiful. I found out that I could bear it. That's what the story told me. That's what I needed to hear. That I could bear it somehow. I guess the question that parents and grandparents must wrestle with is how often do we choose to preserve their innocence, or do we let them see a sad story or hear a sad story? There's always a balance and a sensitivity to timing. As parents or grandparents, we'll have the opportunity of reading stories like Charlotte's Web or watching movies like Old Yellow or Marley and Me. Some of these stories may make them cry. Let them. They need to process it. They will learn they can bear it. Because in time, real life difficulties and sad times will soon be a part of their lives. Things like a COVID outbreak may happen, or something like a 9/11 tragedy will have the family gathered around the TV. They may see mom and dad have conflict, and in some situations, possibly not stay together. They may lose a loved one. They may lose a grandparent. A couple of months ago, I lost my mom. Daniel, our 5-year-old grandson, said to his mother, hey, when is Mama going to come back from being dead? He then said to Jeannie, who he calls Gigi, Gigi, when is Mama going to come back from seeing Jesus? Sad things. He's processing as best he can. Be assured God's grace will be there. Praying with them and guiding them through some fictional stories may help prepare them for the brokenness of real life. Prepare them to be able to bear it. And by God's grace, they will be able to bear it somehow. Jerry McCorkle from One Story at a Time.